You can't tell that there's a cat right here. There's a little cat right here. What a creep. Was it worth knocking the entire frame off? Maybe. What's happening, film friends? I wanted to talk about a little story that's happening right now because I wanted to keep my eye on it as it progresses. I think the story might get a little bigger. We're gonna see. I don't want to bury the lead. Joaquin Phoenix just quit Todd Haynes' film about 5 days before shooting was to begin. Why should anyone care? Hey, that's a great question. Now that you mention it, that's a fucking great question. Let's break it down a little bit. First of all, it's important to understand who Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Haynes are. I think everyone pretty much knows who Joaquin Phoenix is, an Oscar-winning character actor at the top of his game with a giant film about to come out, another billion-dollar film, a sequel to the movie that won him his Oscar. Been around for 30 years now. He's been around forever. Stalwart in the industry. Who's Todd Haynes? Todd Haynes is a beloved auteur filmmaker. He's beloved, yes, among the general cinematic-going public, but also specifically within the queer LGBTQ plus community. His movies are next level. In full disclosure, I haven't seen a lot of films like Far From Heaven or even Carol. Everything was very well reviewed, very well received. But let me tell you, Velvet Goldmine was pretty seminal for me when I finally saw it. It changed the way I thought about screenwriting. Halfway through the movie, I realized, oh my god, he's just ripping the structure off of a far more famous movie. Essentially, he takes the structure of Citizen Kane and applies it to this fanfic of David Bowie and Iggy Pop and the glam scene of the 70s. And it blew my mind when I realized that that's what was happening, and I've gone ahead and tried to implement that into my own screenwriting as well. There's a couple videos back where I talk about Midnight Run. The video is just about stealing the bones. I really like the structure of Midnight Run. And don't worry, we'll get back to it. This channel will be very focused on screenwriting as we move along. But I wanted to focus on this story. The last movie Todd Haynes did was May December with Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman, and whether it got awards or not, the PR was incredible for that film. It got a lot of love, so whatever the next project for Todd Haynes is going to be is probably going to be an award winner. So the story goes, this is all alleged, things that I've read online in various official to unofficial articles. Joaquin Phoenix walked up to Todd Haynes and said, I want to make this movie. I want to make a movie that's set in the 30s. I want to make a movie where the lead character is explicitly gay, and I want to push the limits. I want this to be NC-17. I want to go for it. I'm sure Joaquin was pretty fresh from his Oscar win. So when an Oscar-winning, amazing character actor walks up to you, an auteur filmmaker, and says, I want you to create this thing with me, who's Todd Haynes to say no? In fact, Todd Haynes may get the biggest budget he may ever get for a movie, surely because Joaquin Phoenix is in the film. Their combined pedigree, as it were, makes for a pretty bankable film. So bankable that it went all the way through pre-production. Script, rewrites, casting, set, they crewed up. They were 5 days away. There's not that much left when there's only 5 days away. They built sets. They've already spent 7 figures on this film with the explicit knowledge that Joaquin Phoenix actively pursued this story. Story goes, he got cold feet 5 days before shooting was to begin. And apparently they're trashing the flick. They've already spent 7 figures. They're trashing the movie. They're not recasting. Why? Who checks all those boxes? Who checks the Joaquin Phoenix boxes aside from Joaquin Phoenix? Maybe Leonardo DiCaprio? He's very busy with Paul Thomas Anderson right now, and they're spending ungodly amounts of money on a movie that I cannot wait to see and have no idea what is to come with that, but they're busy. A friend of mine suggested Tom Hardy, and I thought that was pretty good too, but there's a lot of blocks to be built on top of whatever foundation that is. And when the foundation gets ripped out, it tumbles, and there's only so many things that can come through. Who's going to replace Joaquin Phoenix 5 days before with this kind of a movie, especially when this movie was supposedly written by Joaquin himself, at least the basic concept of it. And so, according to articles, the producers are pissed. I wasn't really going to note this. I honestly didn't think there was all too much more to this story and not really worth making a video about. Until a couple of days ago when it was announced that Joker, which was to premiere at Venice, was pulled from its second festival. Joker Foie de Gras 2. Why does that raise suspicion? Joaquin Phoenix is going to be doing press conferences for Joker. He is going to be in front of the entire press corps for Joker. The more festivals he does, the more press junkets he has to do. The more press junkets he does, the more questions about this Todd Haynes project he's going to have to answer. What's the answer? So now Joker is starting to be affected, and nobody wants Joker to be affected by this. I'd like to keep my eye on this story because it's really going to depend on how well Joker does financially. That will guide public and industry opinion about Joaquin Phoenix. If he's still bankable after all this, it's not that big of a deal. Insurance will, I guess, cover it. I asked my buddy what the worst thing that'll happen. He's a producer. He said nothing will happen. Joaquin's insurance will go up. And then we are to remember he made that documentary where he decided to tank his career on purpose. It was a weird stunt. It was an art project I think was really ballsy for a rich person in Hollywood and not ballsy at all for any normal human being on the face of the planet. Nonetheless, what he did was very... Ultimately, in a small community, it was an edgy, kind of strange thing to do for a project. He came right out and did The Master and got nominated for an Oscar, and everyone just kind of let him do his thing. So Joker 2 comes out. Everyone remembers they love Joaquin. The story won't continue. If Joker starts to get affected by this, and if people keep asking questions and the answers they get aren't what they want, they're gonna keep prodding, because that's gonna end up being the bigger story. And if that story overshadows Joker, then we have an issue. Joker 2 has Lady Gaga in it. It's Joker 2. I think this story will pretty much be squashed, aside from Todd Haynes and his team, who will be forever pissed off. And whatever Todd Haynes does next, he's probably going to be beloved for, and he'll be extra cautious about who he works for. And he's going to do something very near and dear to his heart instead of something that is being brought to him. Is my suspicion. I don't know the guy. But it's a perfect opportunity for that once all of this gets settled and once this production can wrap their heads around what's going on and gets their emotional state back in place. Because the real reason for doing this video is to say, look how one person getting cold feet can fuck lots of people. Lots of people. Gross. It's a story about how one person can fuck a production and kill 200 jobs. There's a lot of people who are going to get paid. That's a lot of people who are working. All of it because Joaquin got cold feet. So we're going to see how this all balances out. If the money and clout balances out, like I said, I think it'll be fine. But if good answers aren't given at some point, I think there's going to be a bunch of people who aren't going to be able to let this go. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really want to know, does this gross you out? Do you not really care at all? Is it Joaquin's responsibility? Is it not Joaquin's responsibility? Did I cover this evenly at all? Am I really biased? Am I biased about this? Because I know how I feel about all this, but this isn't necessarily about how I feel deep in my heart. This is like, what does this mean for future projects, and what are the actual trends, and will this affect anything whatsoever in terms of one very popular person being able to put the kibosh on hundreds of jobs, hopefully for a good reason. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the future. I had so much fun. I hope you had so much fun. It's really the most I could possibly ask for. If you had any amount of fun whatsoever, please hit a like, sub a sub,
ring a bell, do any of those interactive things that you can do on YouTube, because it will eventually help make my life a little better. And if my life is a little better, then maybe your life can be better too.